call the October 8th Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And so, we need a couple of motions. Take care of meeting minutes from September 17th.
So moved.
Seconded. All those in favor there? Aye. Payroll and manifest, we got a couple of those in front of us. We signed off on the race. All right, good. Motion there to approve.
Motion is to accept the payroll and manifest. Payroll
Second.
manifest.
All those in favor there?
Aye.
Aye. All right, on to new business. Next on the agenda, budget preparations.
So just looking for any comments. You guys had reviewed the budget that we handed out last month, and to see if there was anything that jumps out at you, or anything you'd like to see this year different than previous years. We are working on still gathering costs, and we're hoping to have a proposal from the operations side of things for our November meeting.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I got some. The general government executive other charges and expenses. You've got like 1,500 and you spent 780, 730. So I think that maybe we'll spend on what's that to be. Try to have this in. What we use it. Well, it's just unanticipated. It would just be nice if you had some more rooms. I think that the 1,500 is, it's better, right? But you did spend $800. If you could put another 1,000 on that, I think it'd be a good thing to do it.
Okay, so bump that up to 2,500.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, if you don't use what it's for. And then the other is office supplies. Are we going to get some chairs here, or
Unanticipated or incidental costs.
I'd like to see some office furniture in that. What is the finance admin and regular wages? Is that the accountant? It's down the bottom.
Which page you on?
No, right on the first page. Finance administration overtime pay.
Yep, so that's for...
No, the one before that. Finance and admin regular wages. The 25,000 on both sides.
Yep, so that is one of our office staff
Oh,
that takes care of the finance role.
I see. Okay.
So that was a full-time position. We currently have a part-time, so that will likely be going down.
Okay.
Yep. We are going to probably leave some room on there for potential expanded operation should that person see the need for additional time. So we did provide that person with a range of time, and Kim is working to bring her up to speed still, but we may expand that to
Didn't know that was that position.
up to possibly another 10 hours, depending on the workload.
Okay, and then the personal administration dues and expenses, is that comfortable with the $2,000? I mean, you spent half of it, but now you got guys joining. Don't you have to join clubs and stuff when you get certified?
Yeah, that's where some of that goes. We can reassess that depending on what we have now. We have a little bit more of an active crew now.
Yeah.
Some of the that we have are fully staffed. In the past, we haven't been fully staffed, so trying to send people to trainings, trying to limit them on trainings, but also provide opportunity to train. Some of those classes go for anywhere from $25 up to $150 plus.
What's the current budget on around that? Like
$1,500
right.
for each side, so $3,000 total.
Right.
You're all learning twice.
Yep.
Is
It's not very much.
Do you have a separate line items for training someplace?
Yep. So it does say meetings and training.
Oh, so,
which I think is right above the dues and memberships and licenses.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a different line. The dues and memberships and licenses is for recertification. So next year is a recertification year for all water operators. The wastewater side is a little bit different. It goes every 6 months, depending on the date that you've certified. So those are $100 a piece. It's not a huge expense, but like I said, we are affiliated with several organizations.
And that $100 goes to the state to get them their license proved up.
Right.
And of course, the other thing is the fencing around this over here for government buildings and building maintenance. How's that on pump station? We're gonna get that done this year?
We actually have, that was one of the updates. The contractor is mobilizing next week to start work on the hoist and the basket.
Oh, yes.
So at that time, we can talk to them about potentially adding some privacy slats or something up there.
Great. And about your internet and internet services, do we have a T1 in here?
Currently, this building is just fed by coax. So
Yes.
I have reached out to Spectrum, and because our contract at the treatment plant has been up, and in renegotiating that, I'm going to see if we can get fiber to this building.
Through the co-op instead.
Yeah, I'm going to reached out to the co-op and to Spectrum.
Yeah, I guess Spectrum is rolling out, as I understand, fiber optic.
You got that? And then the telephone services you have, what do we have? Just regular POT here for the services for the telephone?
Right, so some of it is consolidated communication, so regular phone lines as well. So I want to get that all straightened out because I think we have been paying double on that. I think we have 2 phone providers over the last couple of years.
Oh. And so
Funny how that happens. They don't tell you that there's duplication.
you don't
Right,
have the
right.
phones with the push buttons called.
Oh, yeah, we have regular-
yeah, you do.
Regular
Oh,
NEC phone
You need to have
system.
a
Yeah.
landline. You
Yeah.
do for a business like this, you need a landline.
yeah, I know. But
So
you know,
the
any,
landlines at the plant,
How does
it
it
seems
work?
like everybody's buying the internet with a telephone.
right.
But how does it work that you have two? I don't get that.
I'm not sure how that works,
What was the
honestly.
How do we have two service providers for our phone?
Is one landline, one for everything else? For all your cell service, that would be 2 different vendors.
Yeah, we do have Verizon as well for cell service, but it was consolidated in Spectrum. So my impression is Spectrum,
Consolidated is the landline spectrum.
right?
Spectrum is voice
would
over
be
mail.
Fairpoint.
Right.
So
But Spectrum is voice over mail. I voice over internet.
right, yeah,
And consolidated is old-fashioned phone lines that,
Right.
you know, if the power goes down, your phone still works.
right.
Yeah.
So I think whoever
Actually, that's no
negotiated,
longer true.
I think whoever negotiated Spectrum last time went with the bundle for some reason because it may have been cheaper
In the short term?
in the short term.
Yeah.
So we had duplicate phones. So we had consolidated phone, and we were paying for Spectrum phone, which I don't
You
think
just
we need
didn't cancel
anymore.
it.
Right.
And they just didn't cancel it.
The other one, the electricity down in the plant, is that number, the 130, is that what it's actually costing us? And what is it like without the solar? Because this is with a bunch of solar credits.
Yeah. So we increased that last year because the prices were all over the place, and now they seem to settle down a little bit. So we can hone that in a little bit better. But we've been generally spending about $100,000 a year on electricity.
And how much is the solar credit?
We get about I think it's about $5,000 to $8,000 a year in energy credits.
Yeah, but I mean, what's the solar producing? If we turned off the solar and we bought it
It
down
would be
through,
25% higher.
it'd be 25, so it'd be like that. We're up forward to do your 170,000.
Right.
Oh, that's okay. But,
Yeah, we'll have more solar coming on board.
Right.
The other thing that kind of begs the question is this whole, taking away the sludge and, did we ever think about going in with it? Because the town hauls all kinds of solid waste too. And don't they haul your solid waste to just this corner of the whole dump? And
So I think the town does contract with Casella possibly, as part of the Northeast Solid Waste Network. But ours is different. It's a different material that we're hauling.
I know.
Yeah.
Does it go to a different dump actually, or what?
I'm not sure where the town's material is actually brought.
Oh, really? So you don't think there's any synergies to get together or that and be a bigger customer?
Not generally pricing wise, because this is a unique waste. So
I know.
the unique waste, they tend not to move on as much as people hauling other waste. They really don't want it or need it.
Right.
Okay, so, and
Hoping it just would go away.
Right.
the wastewater test, is that, the 20 grand on those, is that gonna be enough to start testing for FOAs, their PFOAs and stuff?
Right. We may need to increase that a little bit for PFOA testing,
Yeah,
because I believe starting in December, we'll start testing the wastewater treatment plant effluent. And as part of that, we'll have to be looking out into the community to start testing some of the commercial users.
okay. That's all I've got.
It's great.
So yeah, the biggest one is going to be the solids disposal. That one this year we are bumping up or exceeding our budget on it, but the overall budget is still within good shape considering. But that's definitely something to look after next year,
Okay.
and that's something we
Oh, in the wages and the commissioner fees, whereabouts is that? Admin,
and it's under the first page. Elected officials, government, general government executive.
yeah. Okay, well, you guys know when I told you that, like, that the, Bob's line, we should be brought up. So that goes to you want to go. And we said that we would give these guys bonus for doing the time, so doing taking over. We got rid of a 70,000 plus guy, which
Wait a minute, what are you saying? What are you
I'm saying I
asking?
want you to do, I can't do anything myself, so I'm not gonna play the game like the, try to talk into it. If you wanna do that, then
I think you need to be just straightforward and say, I would like to do this. And, I mean, it's you have a way of, like, vaguely saying things and expecting me to understand what you're saying. I'd like to hear it straight up. I want to do
Okay.
this, period.
At the least, I think that we've got, so if he's at 6 and 9,
What is it,
Yes.
6 and 9?
Bob's getting 6 and we're getting 3 a month. So that's
6
600. And we're getting 300.
a month.
Yeah, I
For
think
stipends.
that should
You're
be
talking
kind of
about
work
everybody.
out.
Stipend, yeah.
Maybe everybody gets 4, something like that, but I think the commissioners should be getting paid more than they did 20 years ago. I would have it be 5 for all of us. That's fine.
Well, I think we've already had the discussion that, if anything, the pay here is greater than a lot of commission, whether it be select board members or whatnot across the state. I mean,
I don't know that question. I don't know what their participation is.
Well, Kim actually looked into that specifically. We got numbers on this.
She did.
Yes. So, I mean, I think
I
that,
don't think any number that stayed the same for 20 years. It's just like, just what's
I
that?
would suggest we look at, like, other boards that pay, right? Because other boards that have a stipend, right? And see what that kind of like hourly rate is, and then try to think about how many hours people are putting in.
right.
And make sure that that's on par with the work that people are doing. And that, I think, is fair.
I was thinking of there's more of an attraction for people wanting to be interested in this positions. If
I
you
don't know
don't ever
that
think
the-
anybody wants to win it.
I just don't think it, I don't know that that's how you motivate people to run.
You know, I'd like to hear it over.
Yeah.
You know,
I know.
you know, what should I do to tell them that, you know,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is not just a Plymouth issue. I mean, I read the other day that there's something in excess of 100,000 local positions in the country. People run unopposed. There's no interest in the,
Serving is like, it's kind of like the Robert Quatman bowling the launch and all that. Like, but people
Yeah,
just
yeah.
definitely not interested in serving.
that's what my position is.
Right.
You know. If, the other thing is that I think we should get some new chairs because they've been here probably 20 years too.
Well,
So
we can look into what that,
okay,
might
that's all.
cost, yeah.
That's all.
if you suggest.
So I got this thing here, Chris. Like, hey, you don't want to read that or what? You want to take that back? There are a couple of articles about this people. It's
Yeah, well, there's.
there's
Thank you,
stuff
yeah.
coming down with the PFLAs, and you know, if you want to read them, fine. You know, that's fine.
That one I've read.
Oh, good.
This one I have.
Well, you saw that Jennings article.
Yeah.
Great. I don't have anything.
No, that one, that looks of definite interest.
It's just because it's a color picture.
No. Yeah, right.
I like it because it's local. It's New Hampshire Public Radio, which I think is always gives a nice
Sure. Aside from everything else,
focus
I mean,
on our own state.
It's more advice.
I think that, but they kind of just tell you that Jason's really on top of this issue.
He has to be, it's his job. And we're glad we have him.
Okay, that's up.
Yeah, well, we can't know enough about this issue, really. I mean, although it's mostly, we await what standards are set for
There's
soil and water.
There's, okay,
For soil and water.
I think that he's way ahead of the board. That's all I'm saying. And, you know, this is another place where, you know, you're only getting 300 a month. Where you expect that who's 10, we expected that, you know, spend thinking about this thing. That's the way it is.
Yeah, I think that coming down the line with any PFAS regulations, you know, there's going to be no matter what the number lands at, there's going to be changes required for all systems to either pivot away from land application and find another disposal outlet. As we know, landfills are capacity is becoming more and more scarce every day. And you know, I think that's something, looking at some of the treatment technologies that are out there today, we don't really have the proven technology yet, and the cost for any upgrades for that is going to be astronomical. So I think more of a regional approach would be appropriate in order to treat for PFAS and sludge. And we're going to push the state for some sort of solution to that as best as we can through the rulemaking
He
process.
mailed me a copy from 2 or 3 of those guys who bought. There are people out there, some from Europe, that are proposing. It was the real eye-opener where I've always thought that the solution to this PFAS stuff was going to be pushing the stuff through a filter. And the climate technologies involve taking the water off of it. In other words, rather going to a filter to make a situation where the water comes off and they recapture the water, leaving this carbon-based.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
so-
like distilling.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, pyrolysis, which is essentially gasification of the material and then making it into like a charcoal or a biochar, they call it, where it's purely in its simple carbon form and there's no other contaminants present. But like I said, some of those systems are out there. They're in the piloting phase right now. I think the one technology I looked at, there was 2 installations in the United States, and some of those facilities were a little bit larger than us, and then the costs were up around 26 million to install.
I can see it. I mean, I think that's coming our way one way or the other. It might be
Right.
5 years, it might be 10 years, but
You're gonna have to bring the cost of the systems down.
And support from the government.
Yeah.
Right.
It's one or the other, right? They're gonna make support for those, or they're gonna regulate industry. Right?
Yeah, so I mean, there was a bill moving through both the House and the Senate this year. I think it's in committee right now in the Senate. It was passed the House unanimously to ban all PFAS compounds in commercial products throughout the state.
That'd be great.
So we did write letters in support of that, because really that's our only mechanism right now is to look upstream to try to prevent it from coming to the treatment plant. And it's in so many things, it's a difficult proposition.
Well,
Right, but that doesn't do anything about all of the PFAS
That's
sources
already
that
there,
already exist.
I was driving around Lincoln and that South Mountain is like going into a city. I mean, they must have over 1,000 units in there. And
you've had just the problems though too, right?
I don't,
They had that, what was that disease that they had?
Legionnaire's disease.
Oh, right, yes, right.
oh, God.
Which came from a water cooling tower that they failed to sanitize, I heard.
So, but that, I wonder if, that's a lot of stuff that they're flushing into the Pelly too, right at the beginning. And that's what I kind of thought before, that we were pretty clean coming down, but we're not. It comes out not clean, but then you got all this stuff's coming down with it. And so, have they got a pretty modern system up there, or?
I don't believe though, so I think it's pretty simplistic.
Think about the fire, right, that they recently had. Like,
Yeah.
they had that fire.
They didn't have water.
They didn't have enough water to put the building out. Right? So their system, they didn't. They had to bring in those big, looked like dumpsters, and fire departments emptied water into them, and then they used that to put the fire out. But that building burned to the ground.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Right downtown or what?
Yeah, right downtown. It's that ice cream place that was down below and 3 apartments upstairs.
Yes, I know.
Well, their systems are not in great shape. That would be my guess.
God, they got such revenue and no school and not be really.
I think though that they have a small amount of people that live there. They have a lot of tourists, but I don't think that they have a lot of people that actually live there.
I think so neat. But yeah, that South Mountain's had a lot. Like that, all those condos are like 800 up. It's like amazing. Anyhow, that's all we got. Please.
Did we get any updates at all? Superintendent report?
Yeah, right, well, I don't believe we have anything on old business manager / superintendent.
Yep, so Kim did hand out the quarterly billing warrant. I believe that's sitting
Yes.
there for signature. And then we also have the quarterly revenue for third quarter 2024.
Right.
So it looks like everything is on track, revenue-wise as well as budget-wise. So I think we're in good shape right now to close out the year.
So I annualized based on the first 3 quarters and come up with about, an increase in revenue of about 450,000. So we're feeling like that
Yep.
number is.
Yep, that's exactly where we were targeting with our rates. So
So as far as
So
the
it's not
change,
just use. Use hasn't really, because I did see that some of the water in sewer is higher, right? But so I was wondering if we were having more customers. or-
The gallons higher or?
gallons are up like
Gallons are up.
30,000.
yeah, so I think they're comparable though till if we go back to like 2019 pre-COVID,
Yeah.
they are comparable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please.
So it's not that there's new businesses, new homes being built. We're not servicing a bunch of new clients. It's just basically from the rating.
They're in the tube though.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot in the tube right now with building permits for the town of Plymouth.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
So I did get in touch with Dave Fox also, and we were supposed to meet this past week, but he had an issue and had to reschedule. So we are rescheduled now till next week to meet to go over rates moving forward and some of our projections with budget and capital costs.
You mean potentially tweaking the model then?
Not necessarily tweaking the model, just really updating the 2025 projection.
I see. So to make those,
Are we looking for,
Yeah.
are we looking at another 10% increase this year? Are we gonna be
Potentially 5% is what we talked about.
That's what we planned on.
Yeah.
I thought we were talking 5% was, 5% was like depreciation, and 5% was inflation. That's right about the 10%.
Okay.
I thought that that's what he was saying. And so, and the other thing is that you don't know, so what's our annual revenue then?
We're up around 3.4 million.
3.4.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was kind of the transition from 23 to 24. Now we're going to start our increases moving forward. So we should be about the same
Dude,
this year.
you justify having, it's real nice to have a whole year's revenue in the bank. But much over that, I don't know how right it is. Bob says that you want to have cash in the bank if you're going to pay the contract in before that. But that's where the banks all love doing bridge loans for us for that, right? And then on like that,
Then you're paying out the interest. This way we're not paying out interest.
but is that interest so, I mean, that's classically how it's done, you don't accrue so much down.
It's working well because we never know, we're scheduling, we got some big checks still going out here soon on the new water project. It's gonna get us down close to that number, if not below it.
right, I mean, remember, we've carefully projected what our increase in debt service is going forward.
Yeah.
It really depends on the funding agency. So like, for example, rural development, we did end up getting a bridge loan for that because the loan doesn't come due until the very end is when we get dispersed for the whole thing. Whereas like the state loans, we get dispersed on a monthly basis. So it's a little bit better cash flow wise. And we can carry that, if it's a $400,000 or $500,000 to $600,000 pay requisition, we can carry that month to month. And then get dispersed the next month.
So how does that go with these checks? Which big checks you talking about? The guys putting the pipe under them?
Yeah.
And that's one, or that's the one contractor we have?
Yep. Yeah, right now. So we have other projects that are starting up that, we'll go through the whole process all over again.
So we give them mobilization jobs company.
Yep, and we're pulling in ARPA funding right now on our Highland Street, Emerson, and Reservoir projects.
Where does ANCRA,
American Rescue Plan Act.
That's right. Okay, I've seen the sign for it.
Yep. So those projects are, still in design right now. We are looking at cost estimates for those as well. We just got the 30% design comments back, and we are seeing some increased costs for those projects. So we'll be working through the next month or so to determine if we need to rewrite a warrant article for those projects. The water costs are coming in higher, the sewer costs are coming in lower, but not by the same amount.
Of course.
So
I have more questions.
that's up and coming with the works to that.
The Emerson Street project, they just paved. Is that, I hope it's on the lower end that we're
Yes.
digging up?
Yeah.
Because I think if they just paved it, we're digging it up next year, it's gonna create havoc in the town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rogers High and down.
Okay.
Yeah.
That road was in such bad shape.
Oh, I know. And the main reason the town wanted to fix it is to ruin their snowplows on it.
Yeah,
So that's stuff up and coming. We also have design for Pleasant Cummings and Avery Streets and the lower portion of Russell Street too that we want to tackle next year. So all of that is in the works. Our engineers are working as fast as they can, but sometimes we keep nudging them along because we're saying go faster, go faster. They're trying to pull in as much resources as they have because we have ARPA funding deadlines as well,
Right.
looming next year.
Okay, the engineering, is that like for one project? And how do we pay those engineers? Because that's way out ahead of maybe getting the grant or the money from the government. So what do we just pay them out of cash, and does the grant cover the engineer?
Right, yep, so we get reimbursed for that as well.
We get reimbursed. Do we get an admin fee on handling all that money?
There's opportunities for it, but it was advised not to go that route by our auditors. They advised to keep the admin in-house.
That that becomes part of the job.
Correct.
So
Yep.
you just don't have that line item on the claim.
Right.
I thought I didn't have any more question.
It's okay.
Keep them coming, these are all good.
Well, yeah. So other questions on our third quarter or numbers here? That, sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So anything else, Jason, superintendent wise or?
Just wanted to bring up that we're over halfway through the well project at this point. All of the piping work in Foster Street is now complete, and we're starting to work on some of the electrical components. So they've installed some of the electrical conduit on the Holderness side, and the well driller, Barry Miller, has delivered the stand pipes for the new wells over there. So he's going to be mobilizing within the next month or so to start going on that.
How deep is that going to be?
Those wells are currently, I believe one is 75 feet, and one's close to 90 feet.
They're like gravel wells? They're just like 6 foot?
It's not that deep. That's pretty good.
Yeah, they're shallow gravel packed wells, and they're an 18-inch steel casing with a 12-inch screen inside.
Oh. Good.
And we pump out of those 300 gallons
So
a minute.
what's the cement about?
Sorry?
What's the cement for?
The cement is for making a pad around the well so that we can build stairs and a platform about 13 feet high to be able to put our controls up there so it doesn't flood.
Above flood stage.
Yeah.
Are you putting a structure over it? Just out of curiosity, because that's what
Nope.
we have in the other one.
It's a steel standpipe. It looks like a regular homeowner's wellhead essentially, but just way oversized. But the other concrete is up on Route 175. We're building an electrical building up there and a precast concrete.
No, true.
Nope.
Oh.
And how do you heat the well?
And to heat it?
Yeah, how do you heat the house that freezes up all the dials and everything?
I think that's getting a mini split in it.
They put some beans for that. Oh,
Heat pump.
God.
But generally, there's no windows in it. There is a door, obviously, and
Sure.
the electrical equipment in there will probably heat the building
Generate heat, yeah.
itself. It'll be just in the summertime, probably trying to keep it cool from the electrical that generates the heat. So we are doing good on that. We're about almost 75-80% complete on our first segment of loan and grant for that, which was the original $3.3 million under the trust fund. So we'll likely close that out later this year and then transition to the next phase of funding for that under the emerging contaminants funds. So that's going well. Like I mentioned before, we have a contractor coming to provide updates to the Pump Station 1 project. That's finally getting done and moving forward. So we'll be upgrading the hoist and the basket over there.
Finally.
There was another go around that the manufacturer wouldn't make the basket that we needed because of the dimensions didn't match what's there. And so we are getting a manufactured basket, but it's just a different model than what was originally spec'd. So
How are they going to not to get jammed on the rails?
they have wheels and bearings.
Okay.
Yeah. So there'll be a wheel system,
Good.
and they'll get their own individual hoists so that we don't have to share one hoist with each basket.
So,
Because that was a safety issue.
Right.
Yep.
well,
And
so you have 2 new hoists over there.
Well,
Wow.
one new.
yeah, one new hoist in addition to what's existing.
Yes. Yes.
Glad, nothing like 3 years late, but
Right. And then we are moving forward with the force main project along the Baker River. The engineers are currently working on a shoreline permit over there. They've had to do a tree count and tree survey in order to determine what the restoration needs to be, and that needs to be included in the shoreline permit. So originally they had some issues that came out, and the survey was incorrect. They subbed the survey out to another company, so they're following up with that company to get the correct survey so that the trees aren't looking in the picture in the river when they're really not. So these are some of the little things that go on that we got to try to keep moving forward and pushing as best as we can. So we also have Grenice currently reviewing that plan, and will give us some pricing for that project. If the pricing comes in favorable, we'll likely proceed with them in a change order into the Main Street project. If it doesn't become favorable, then we likely will have to go out to bid
so what determines favorability?
within budget. Because at this point, the last funds remaining under the USDA project is the grant funding. So essentially, we have the ability to expend it all, but not one penny more than
Right.
than that. So there's no point in trying to save costs at this point. It's trying to get everything under that budget.
Right. Well, let's see how well that goes.
But we've done good so far. The Main Street project came in under budget, so that really helped out in giving us some padding with it for this last phase as well.
Nice.
Yep. That's all I have.
What
Okay.
about the electrical?
We did have the state
yeah, right.
electrical inspector in. He indicated that the single neutral was not an illegal electrical connection. It was just happened to be the wire somehow got loose and hit the other one, and it happens.
Okay.
So we have reached out to Wright Pierce for an electrical evaluation. They said they don't do something like that. They'll make design recommendations moving forward. So we are working with an independent electric contractor, trying to get some costing from them to come in and do the evaluation at this point.
And this is just evaluating the safety or code compliance?
Safety and code compliance, and that essentially everything is anything that's obsolete or defunct that needs to be upgraded. Looking to
Right.
get recommendations on that.
Yeah. Because the building was built in the 80s, right?
Upgrade.
Part of the building was built in the 60s. Part of it was upgraded in the 80s. Yeah.
So some of the electrical could date back to the 60s.
I believe at this point all of it's from the 80s.
Is okay. It's still kind of low.
Still 45
Yeah.
years ago.
It is.
So is that likely to be a warrant article material? Is that?
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the price that we received from the engineers on that was about a $3 million project. But we want to make sure that we're,
For what, to re-electric the plant?
yeah.
Yeah.
So that,
It never ends. It never ends.
the electrical inspector said that we have a G9000 electrical motor gear, motor control panel, and he said, oh, that was top of the line back in its day.
Yeah.
And then he said that's why it's lasting so long now. But like I said, the parts are obsolete. So we go to look for a motor starter, and we got to scavenge old parts off of something to
Right.
make it work, or try to find it on eBay. So
And that $3 million is just the electrical. It does nothing for that building either, right?
correct.
Yeah. And that building is,
What the duct tape and chewing up don't do it anymore.
keep it in perspective. It's just for the electrical.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's something that's
complex.
Some of
It
that
is.
equipment runs 24 hours a day and has
true.
been for the last 40 years.
And
So
we want it to be reliable, and
Yep.
we want it to run, right?
right.
Yeah.
So we're working through that right now. We'll pull that together. But that's one thing that looking for funding in the future. There's a lot of funding available right now, but actually in the next 3 to 4 years, DES is saying that a lot of their funding is going to dry up anyway. So this window of abundant funding is going to end soon.
Of course, it is.
And, that's we need to position ourselves as best as we can, like we have, to try to get some additional work done within the next 2 to 3 years. After that, who knows? But it's always good to have a preliminary engineering report on the shelf for a project if that funding does come along. So,
Right.
so that's like we're working on the master plan now for the pump stations. We have a water master plan, and just doing that legwork puts us in a position when funding does become available.
Is that solar project coming down the line?
It is, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, so I'll be meeting with Paray next week as well.
Excellent.
Yep. A lot going on.
Yes. Just because we're going in the fall doesn't mean it's slowing down
Yep, just
a whole lot.
wanted to touch on one more thing that just
Yes.
came to my mind was the lead and copper rule. We've completed our inventory that's due next week, October 16th. The EPA and DES will be submitting that as soon as we receive some comments back from our consultant, Hazen and Sawyer, that DES has contracted with. And then we have 30 days from that date to provide public notice. So we will be mailing letters out to each of our customers that has either unknown water service line material, lead water service material, or galvanized pipe. And those letters will be notifying them of those 3 options. And if it's unknown, we'll need some cooperation and some coordination to find out what it is. So one of the easiest things to do is look in where your water line comes through your basement wall or your bulkhead or your building, and find out what type of material it is. And even if it is copper, we ask you to determine what the age of your home is. So if it's a pre-1986 home, it may still have lead solder in the copper. So we're trying, and at that point, we'll be putting together our sampling list of the most likely areas that may be impacted by lead, and trying to target those areas next year, early next year, so that we can identify them and remove any lead lines that are still out there. So we have, so far over the last year, we have replaced about 8 service connections in the Russell Street and Gould Terrace area, and that project cost about $77,000 to replace those 8 lines. So as you can imagine, it's almost $10,000 a service line that needs to be replaced. So
And that funding, there's funding for this, correct? So
yep.
homeowners can be reimbursed for this? Is that how it would work?
Yep, so we currently have funding with 100% principal forgiveness, so we have extended that assistance to the private side of the line as well. So when we come in and identify lead in the service line, we're replacing everything from the intersection at the main all the way into the meter.
Okay, that's good.
Some other systems don't have that opportunity, so there is a cost-sharing mechanism that they're implementing that does require customers to pay for a portion of their replacement. So we were very fortunate to get that type of funding for this. But yeah, it's something that's moving forward. We're gonna the lead level, action level, is gonna go from 15 parts per million down to 10 parts per million. Some of the child care facilities are currently testing at 5 parts per million or below. So bringing that standard down, honing in on areas of the system that have lead, so we can identify it. But we are also treating for lead in our water treatment. So if you recall, back in 2016, we implemented the orthophosphate treatment, which is like a biofilm that coats the insides of the pipes throughout the entire distribution system, so that it prevents the water from leaching metals out and lead out So as long as we're treating for our water, we've been historically in compliance with the lead and copper rule, testing below 15 parts per billion. It's really only when, someone like Flint, Michigan changes their water source and doesn't put the correct treatment in place, that's when they get the leaching of the lead into the system.
So you have a chemical in a water system that drifts to the outside of the pipe, to the outer inside, and creates a channel?
Yeah, it pretty much creates a film on the sides of the pipe, so that the water can't be in direct contact with the pipe. So like iron pipe, we don't have a lot of heavy iron in our water anymore because that film is protecting the pipe.
And how does the film not show up in your drinking water?
It does.
So
So
it protects it here too.
potentially, but it's a food grade chemical, so it's NSF approved,
Really?
and it's a polyphosphate, so it's a benign chemical. It really just sequesters the reaction. So our biggest thing is when the water coming out of the well is crystal clear, but then you go to add chlorine to it to disinfect, and that chlorine creates an oxidation reaction that then changes the color and the characteristic of the minerals in the water. So that's why we see sometimes a reddish or a brownish hue to the water discoloration because of that reaction. It happens a lot quicker in like a hot water tank. So that's why we've had some hot water tank issues over the years, is because that reaction is sped up in the hot water system because heating things is a catalyst.
Right.
So fast.
Hey, Jason, one of those brochures that you showed me, it had the neatest thing. And it talked about parts per million, parts per billion, and parts per trillion, and it related it to years. Do you remember what that was? Like parts per million is like a second in 7,000 years.
Yep.
Parts per trillion is like a second in like 18,000 years. A
Right.
second. And then what was the next one? Parts per trillion
Yep.
was like in 31,000 years. I mean,
Yeah, it's like a grain of sand and 30,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
God,
So that's the level how
it's hard to get
small we're
perspective
looking at.
on these numbers, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
It's it's really pushing the level of science that the instrumentation can look at, and also the method. So that's why we've been waiting on the wastewater side to test for PFAS for so many years, because of the method wasn't developed yet to even get down to numbers that low with a dirtier water.
Because,
Yeah. So that's,
thank you.
as more science and technology advances, the more we can see as a public and be
Yeah.
more knowledgeable about what contaminants are in our water and wastewater. That's it.
Okay.
Thanks for the update on the electrical.
Yes, yeah, that was good. Purchase recs, I will read those. We'll before we have a motion on that, I'll read what we've had recently. Crawford Champlain seals and pump related materials, $2,768. Power up generator, new block heater installation, $1,135.82. DeRocher's Automotive, repairs to one of our trucks, that's $406.63. Beltates, hardware, $262.75. Northeast Electrical Distributors, $696.94. Greenwood Products Inc., $253.71, and that appears to be all of them. Do I have a motion to enter those into the record?
Sure, make a motion.
All those in favor there. All right.
Yeah, the one Northeast Electrical, the $640.
Right.
That was one explosion-proof outlet that we have in one of our wastewater buildings. One outlet costs.
240? Was it 240?
Yep.
It's a lot. Electrical components, though. I think what you need in that facility are more advanced, right, than the average home.
Oh, absolutely.
Really,
Yeah.
think about like an outlet.
I don't think it's door to hold people.
No, you can't go.
Well,
Okay.
we must be safe electrical wise.
We must.
One thing we did miss, thank you, Bob, for tossing this to my attention. This is the third quarter water and sewer warrant, requires our signatures. Don't believe that's motionable, it's just for signature. And no, it doesn't appear to be any public. Next meeting, November 12th at 5 p.m., Tuesday, November 12th. I think that's it.
Yep.
Very good. Make a motion to adjourn.
9:50, yes.
What's this form?
Great.
How do we miss that?
I don't know, I didn't see it on the list either.
Which one?
Oh, that's the for the wastewater master plan.
Okay.
Yep. So that's a consultant selection form. Just Chris to sign. Yeah.
Motion for,
To adjourn?
no, I was gonna say motion to authorize me to sign this, Ken.
You're already authorized under that project.
Okay,
Great.
fair enough. Then we're adjourned.
We're adjourned.
Right.
I will sign when I need to sign.
Thank you very much.